Hi, guys. Welcome back. We are here with our Buffalo Bills front office football 9 franchise mode, I guess if you want to call it. Um, so we just completed our first season. We went 10-7 in our first year and actually made it to the conference championship game and lost to Cleveland. You can see how our season kind of played out. Started 4-3, a little bit slow, won our next 3 of 4, and then a 3-game slide to that tough part of the schedule: Philly, Kansas City, Dallas. But picked it up at the end, beat the Chargers, Patriots, and Dolphins by a couple of scores, and ended up sneaking into the playoffs on like a 14% chance. And then in the playoffs we beat Denver, ended up beating New England again in overtime in Foxborough by 3, and then lost to Cleveland by 8 points in the conference championship game. So overall, I think all things considered, I think it was a pretty good season. Josh ended up throwing for almost 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. I'd also like to see how he ran the ball here, but let's see. Josh Allen. So he also ran for 475 and three touchdowns as well. So yeah, pretty good season. Gabe Davis had 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. Pretty insane season for him in a contract year. And then defensively, it looks like Rapp led the team in tackles. 14 and a half sacks for Von Miller. He had sort of a resurgence, and Greg Rousseau, our young defensive end, with 10 sacks as well. Jordan Phillips, 8.5. And Taylor Rapp led the team with 5 interceptions. So yeah, overall a pretty solid season, I'd say, for given our roster, and Josh being sort of like an above average to good quarterback in this simulation. So we'll take a look. We grabbed this undrafted kicker as well. Midway through the season, I just saw him sitting out there. He missed 4 kicks and missed a couple extra points. So I don't know if that's actual value or not, but he was a lot better than Tyler Bass. Anyways, so yeah, let's begin the new year here, and we're starting with a stadium plan deadline. So at this point, let's take a look and see what our stadium report is looking like. Loyalty of the fan base is pretty solid. We on the support scale, we're not like totally ready to move on from the stadium, but I mean, this is the oldest stadium in the league by about 20 years or so. It was built in 1970, the early 70s. So, it's one of the worst conditions wise. Might be time to move on pretty soon. But I'm not. New construction possible. Eligible to move team due to failed vote. Let's take a look at our financials real quick. The brand is worth about $324 million, which is pretty high up already. Profits, still not like super profitable. Definitely on the lower half. Total revenue, expenses related to player contracts, total expenses for the year 146. So we ended up pocketing about 129. We can submit a construction plan because I do think the team performed pretty well this year. There is some support to get a new stadium in. Not a ton, but there is at least some support. And considering we pocketed about 100 something, and we'd have to, you know, so we maybe want to look at like, we'd have to contribute over the next 5 years. Let's start off with like 70,000 in the stadium, with maybe 200 luxury boxes. Okay. So if we were to contribute that, maybe ask just under a million from the or a billion from the public. We'll submit it. We'll see what happens. Wait, hold on. We are going open air grass turf. I think that's the way to go. I know a lot of people in Buffalo say they want the dome, but some people love having the elements and blah blah blah. I think we stick with the open air and go to grass turf instead of synthetic. Do it for the players. We'll see. We'll see if that goes through. And then our ticketing plan. We'll use the recommended prices. We did only sell 100 luxury boxes this season. Let's maybe drop that and see if we can sell a few more. End of the day. So we're missing out on 300,000 about by cutting those prices, but really we just have to sell an additional 2 luxury boxes to make that up, and anything else is cake. So we'll submit that. Okay. Staff retention period. So I think I'm pretty happy with, yeah, like Dorsey in this simulation, not a great play caller. But smart, disciplined, good with player development. Al Holcomb. Al Holcomb is kind of solid across the board. Doesn't do anything really great, though. Potentially one that we could move on from. Eric Washington, our defensive line coach, and assistant coach. And he's solid. I think McDermott looks really great on paper. The play calling. So from a play calling perspective, we're not like all the way there. And I think as much as I do love Ken Dorsey, I wonder if there is something better out there for this team. Diggs does not have good chemistry. Shavers not very good chemistry, but shorter, positive. So like, do we move on from Diggs potentially? That's a good way to save us some cap as well. Because I think Diggs is in a place where his contract is now something we can move on from. Let's take a look at that real quick. I know Diggs is Gabe is a free agent. Diggs, we could save a good 11 mil on him. He's now what, 30? Yeah. So that's something we could take a look at. As far as what we're doing today, though, let's focus on today's activities. I think finding something better for... Oh, shoot. Yeah, so hire head coach. Okay. So yeah, I think head coach, I'm still good with McDermott. He's still under contract. Everybody is still under contract. I think we need a new head trainer for sure. Potentially new coordinators, though. I'm not sure how much I'm bought into the Al Holcomb thing. We'll see what else is out there. Ken Dorsey, definitely better in this simulation than real life. Good at developing. Discipline, intelligence is great. But yes, the play calling thing, especially as a coordinator, like I'm not doing that, so I need somebody to be doing the play calling well. Same thing on the defensive side. I'd rather just get like a really good play caller on both sides, with McDermott sort of handling like the head or the head coaching aspects, scouting, intelligence, young players, motivation, discipline. Those are all his strengths in this simulation. So we need somebody who can like quarterback both sides of the ball. I think Eric Washington is a fine assistant coach, good player development, interviews, scouting is all fine. But if something else is out there that's better, we can maybe look to that too. So I think everything but McDermott is kind of up for grabs right now. So offensive coordinator, let's see, available for this position. I do want to sort this by play calling. And then maybe intelligence next. I do want to find a good balance. Not a very smart guy here, but like young player development, good motivator, good discipline, and strong play calling from Sterling Martz. We keep the spread. He's he's good with tight ends, which we do have we're locked into a solid tight end group right now. Definitely want to make sure he can bring up Kincaid with how much we have invested in Kincaid right now. And we have Knox still on the roster, so I think that's a valid option. Matt Nagy over here, pretty good across the board actually. Nagy's looking pretty good, and he is a QE guy. So that's possible as well. Not extremely smart. Both of these guys pretty low on intelligence. I don't know how exactly that affects the game, but if we're continuing to look at like the spread offensive types, Air Coryell, I'm not sure what exactly that is, but young player development for Rich Bisaccia. West Coast. Okay, that looks pretty interesting too. Not very good at player development, but young player development's fantastic. He's a good play caller, disciplined, smart. Right now, the assistant coach for Green Bay focuses on running backs, though. I'm not sure that exactly fits what we're looking for. West Coast offense, I'm not sure that really complements Josh's strengths as well. So I think it's down to either Nagy or Sterling Martz. I think Nagy just looking younger and just really built across the board aside from the intelligence thing. I think we try and make that happen. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nagy here, I think. Let's see if we can sign him. All right, so it looks like we got Nagy. Cool. Let's run today's actions. And now we're looking at defensive coordinator. available for this position. Again, we want to look toward play calling and maybe intelligence as like a secondary. So we have like a couple of 4-3. Surprised like nickel isn't necessarily an option. I'm not sure the difference between 4-3 over and 4-3 under. But I think 4-3 over would mean your linebackers are over your D lineman, maybe. Whereas with a 4-3 under, you have like a shift there. I think we need to stick with 4-3 because we're definitely deeper up front. At least right now we are. So I'd be interested in Holman potentially, who looks okay. Discipline not great on these couple of guys. And then it comes down to like, and I mean, Sean is kind of the discipline of this whole operation, so I'm not sure that we would need that necessarily. But I'm not total. I think I'm like partial to maybe stick with Al Holcomb for now. He just seems to be a well-rounded individual for what we got. So I think I'm going to skip today. And let's look at our assistant coach here. I maybe want to bring in an offensive assistant coach to because we have McDermott heading up the defensive side, and then our defensive coordinator, obviously Al Holcomb. So I think getting an offensive assistant coach to balance would be would potentially be welcomed. What are we looking for in like an assistant coach? Probably somebody with player development. And considering we're going to be turning over this roster, maybe young player development would be the way to go with that. Although let's just sort it here by and see if we have any guys that are spread. So a couple of decent ones. Good play caller here in Sterling Martz. That was the guy we were looking at for our offensive coordinator job. Would potentially be a good option. But somebody with a little more intelligence potentially would be good as well, because we hired a guy that is not extremely high in intelligence. Scouting looks pretty good on a couple of these guys. Play calling, discipline. So really just motivation is really where Kenyon Frint lacks, and his group is the O-line. But we don't necessarily need play calling from him because we have that with our offensive coordinator already. So maybe it's just maybe this Brady Carmanos looks pretty good. Kind of mediocre across the board aside from. Let's hold on. Let me get one last look at Eric Washington here. No real holes other than play calling and motivation, which are kind of covered with what we got right now. I think, you know what? He's a true 3-4 defensive front, though. I think it might be worthwhile to match that up with Al Holcomb's 4-3 under. Let's see what we have available for 4-3 under here. See if we can find somebody. So if we're sorting by 4-3 under, and then we go maybe potentially player development as the next there. So 4-3 under. Here's the best. Good scout. Good intelligence. This guy, good developer and all that, but I'm not sure. We can sacrifice the play calling on this end, I think. Having assistant coach, I'm thinking like motivator and discipline. This might be a good route to go here. Taylor Carmen, good developer, or at least decent. And then smart, good, a decent scout, decent with interviews. Yeah, and we have some developers on with our coordinators, and yeah, I think I like how Taylor Carmen sort of fits into everything and fills up some of the holes that are left everywhere else. I like an assistant coach that can motivate. I'm gonna go with Taylor Carmen here. Yep, and then now let's take a look at our head trainer. Um, we want to be fit. Is this Sean McDermott? Wow, two Sean McDermott. We have to. We have to go Sean and Sean McDermott here, right? And he looks great too, yeah. Let's get a couple Sean McDermotts in the building, huh? How about that? Look at that. Love it. Love it. All right. Here's the draft class. Stud quarterback at the top available, Asher Meteor. Couple of really nice quarterbacks at the top, a tackle, D tackle. There's some really good running backs in there. That's potentially a hole to fill for us. Franchise player deadline. All right. Poona Ford, he's pretty old. I'm not sure I'm going to want to be handing out a contract to that. Same with Leonard Floyd. We have Epinesa here as well, though, who's a young player that we may want to think about signing on as well. Gabe Davis, do we want to give him? Yeah, these are all guys I'm definitely thinking about. So let's see if we're looking at the landscape here. Gabe Davis had a banger year last year for sure. And with us potentially thinking about trading Diggs, I think signing Davis might be a smart move. The other ones we have Floyd and Epinesa. I think signing Epinesa long term would be a good move, but also we have Rousseau to think about. Floyd's getting pretty old. I'd probably consider letting Floyd walk over anything. So potentially Epinesa, potentially Gabe Davis, Poona Ford. We don't really have a. I mean, Jordan Phillips has been starting there, but we also want to get Ed Oliver into the fold as well. And for some reason, he didn't really start last year. So potentially letting Poona Ford walk would kick Oliver into the starting lineup, and I think that would be. I think that would be like a nice way to neutralize that loss. Yeah. Let's take a look at our salary cap report. I know we're quite a bit over the cap right now. We're already thinking about moving some money into next year by moving on from Diggs. So I don't know that we even have like we don't really necessarily have the ability to be doing something like that right now. Let's think here. Contracts ending in 25. We got Spencer Brown, who's somebody that we're definitely going to want to lock in long term. Rousseau, definitely someone we'll want to lock in long term as well. Those are two of our best players. Mitch Morse, potentially someone we may want to move on from. Definitely could clear up some space with that as well. So yeah, like Morse potential trade candidate. 'Cause he's a bit older as well. Poyer, maybe a trade or a cut candidate, so we could save some cap. And Dawkins is, I mean, we're starting left tackle, but let's see. Yeah, I don't think we can move on from him necessarily quite yet. A couple free agents here, free agent here. Jordan Phillips also a free agent though, so all of our defensive tackles are free agents right now. So let's think here. Dane Jackson. Taylor Rapp is a free agent. Damar Hamlin. Looks like Micah Hyde maybe retired. I don't know where he went. Damar Hamlin we still have until 2025. Yes, we're at a bit of a crossroads, kind of like the Bills were in real life, where I think it's time to maybe acquire some young pieces. So let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can hit in the trade market here. First of all, no interest in Diggs. What's the other one we were thinking about here? No interest in Poyer. Oh, Morse. Surprised no interest in Morse either, though. I guess the cap cost is something there. We still have Bates on until 26 too. Yes, that's even more reason to cut bait there. All right, well, let's start with are we in a period where we can even... All right, well, let's look at our franchise situation first here before we move any further. Salaries would be pretty massive too. Thing is, like, I think Josh at the end of the day, still an above average player to go. It's weird to say that in a simulation, but that's the reality. Above average player at quarterback, so we do need to have some pieces around him to make that happen, I think. And we do have Knox, we do have Kincaid. Knox is somebody to think about potentially moving on from as well, because we do have Kincaid as like an average player with some above average potential coming up here. And we could save a bunch of cap. Let's see if there is any interest in the trade market for a Dawson Knox. So New England, we could go ahead and give him to New England. Let's see what they have to offer for him. New England, because Knox at the end of the day, like he probably helped us in the run game, but so they'd give us a third and a fifth for him, and we have to give up a fourth. What about Cincinnati? We'd give up a third, they'd give us a third, so we're really like, it's like a pick swap essentially. Yeah, we move up around and get an extra fifth for Knox. And I think this is going to be a year where we need to sell off some pieces, and we may not be competitive right away this year. I think this is going to be a bit of a retooling. So I think this is something that we may want to consider. Because Knox just wasn't a huge receiver for us. We need to lean into our first round tight end. Yeah, I think that's just really where this is at right now. So before we continue on with the player moves, I'm gonna cut it here. I'm gonna try to keep these videos to about a half hour each. So we'll cover the different phases. So next will be some roster moves, some free agency, and then we'll get into the draft maybe in another episode. So I'm gonna cut it here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.